The bill. In reply, the Honourable Member Jacinda Ardern.
Thank you, Mr Chair, and I thank members for their contributions to this debate, with the exception of Tauhenane. I think it's a low point in this House to be called lazy by Tauhenane. That's definitely going down in my book. But I think the ultimate frustration for me, Mr Speaker, in this debate has been this: that there is an acceptance across this House that our adoption laws need to be updated. That doesn't seem to be something that was disputed in this debate. No one seemed to argue that point. So if there's agreement generally that our adoption laws need to be updated, and yet still nothing has come before this House in way of reform in this area. And the last time that I approached a minister in the national government and offered to them, said, look, we're looking to progress this piece of work, we want to get it right. Ultimately, we would prefer if the government did it. You're better placed to do something of this complexity because members' bills are drafted by members not using the expertise of Parliamentary Council and drafters. We went to the government. We asked them to pursue this. I had a meeting with the minister. His response was this: it is not a priority for this government. So I find it absolutely offensive, Mr Speaker, to have members on that side of the House abuse Labor members for trying to pursue this issue, for trying to claim that we don't care about it, when that government has refused to further this any more than it has in the last 5 years, which has been absolutely nothing. Now, I want to refer to some of the comments that were made by the likes of people like Scott Simpson, who claimed that this bill was a blank piece of paper. This bill essentially enacts 350 pages of work. So my question, because it wasn't only Scott Simpson who made that claim, it was Toe as well. My question, Toe didn't even mention adoption, I should add. My question is this: how many of the members across that side of the House has read the Law Commission's report, Adoption and its Alternatives? Who's read it? Who's read it? No wonder, Mr Speaker, no wonder they don't understand what this bill does. This bill is essentially saying, Mr Speaker, that we agree with the 350 pages of policy work that has already been done. We agree to the point that it's about time that it was progressed by this debating chamber. And if that side of the House likes to claim that adoption is a cross-party issue that we all agree on, why would they have any objection to adopting the work of the Law Commission? So for that side of the House to claim that there was nothing in this bill, for that side of the House to claim it was a blank piece of paper, all that proves to me is that they know nothing about the history of the work that's gone on into this area, and that they would rather sit back and say it's not a priority than to use a mechanism to fast-track a piece of work that is well overdue. So quite frankly, I found that offensive, to say the least. Because let's be honest, Mr Speaker, let's be honest. If we had translated the Law Commission's 350 pages of work, including its recommendations, which essentially is a bill, if we had presented that to the House, I can bet your bottom dollar that the first thing that side of the House would have said is there's an error in para 4, 5, 12, 10 and 18. We cannot agree with this piece of legislation. I can guarantee they would not have supported it to go further to Select Committee. Because what am I basing that argument on? Well, there is another bill currently on adoption reform. There is. It's in the ballot right now. It's sitting there, wasting away, taking a gamble to be drawn. And that side of the House had the audacity to say, well, why don't we use that instead? Well, why don't they? If this government genuinely believes in adoption reform and the paramountcy principle in putting children first, I challenge them to adopt Kevin Haig's bill tomorrow as a government bill and progress this work. Because otherwise, everything that they have said in this House tonight is utterly hollow if they are unwilling to do that. Mr Speaker, ultimately, the people losing out as a result of Parliament being unwilling to progress this work that everyone agrees needs to be done, ultimately the losers aren't me, who was ritualistically abused by some members of the House tonight. It's not me. It's those families who desperately want a law change in this area. Now, I challenge the government to respond to the kinds of emails I got through this debate and tell them that this work isn't a priority. I challenge them to adopt that members' bill that's in the ballot if this one isn't to their liking, or I challenge them to present a bill of their own before the next election and we...
Right. The question is that the motion be agreed to. Those of that opinion will please say aye. Aye. The contrary, no. Noes have it? Ayes have it? Right. Well, in that case, the clerk is instructed to carry out a party vote. Thank you. Point of order, the Honourable Trevor Mallard.
Mr Speaker, I think there is a requirement for someone to call for a party vote after... Well,
Order.
Can you hear the point of order first? Mr Speaker, I mean, with all due respect, Mr Speaker, I did hear someone call for a party vote, but it was after you said you'd asked the clerk for a party vote. Now, my understanding of the way that these things are meant to be ordered is that you declare a result, and if the people don't like it, then there is a requirement. And while, it's probably reasonable, given the debate, for you to anticipate that there might be a division on this particular question, the point that I'd like to put to you is that you should wait to make sure that they're actually voting with their votes as opposed to just on their voices. Because as you will know, Mr Chair, while there's a tradition in this House of having votes which, after voice votes, there's a long-term tradition of members being able to vote on the voices but not force a division. And my view, Mr Speaker, is that it is up to you to wait and make sure that members do want a division before you decide there should be one.
Speaking to the point of order, Mr.
Speaking to the point of order.
Thank you, Mr Speaker.
Tim McIndoe.
As is your custom, you called for the ayes. Members opposite said aye. You called for the noes. Members on this side said no. I immediately said noes have it, and I was joined in that by several of my colleagues. Immediately after that, I said party vote, as you were saying the noes have it. The member's point is totally wrong.
Well, speaking further to point of order.
Further point of order, the Honourable Trevor Mallard.
Mr Speaker, I think the member has just absolutely proved my case. Because what he has to do is to call for the vote after you have declared the result. So you quite properly said those in favour say aye, those opposed say no. But sir, you went then from saying the ayes have it, you declared the result, but then immediately called for a party vote rather than wait until after the member had himself called for a party vote, which he can only do, sir, after you've declared the result. He can't call for a party vote against a result until he knows what the result is. That's the way things work. You've got to declare a result,
I did.
And then that is the point. He calls for a party vote.
Can I just instruct the House that, the declaration of the result was challenged, and I took it from this side that there was a party vote called for, so I instructed a party vote to be taken. So I'd now instruct the clerk to please take the party vote. Point of order, the Honourable Trevor Mallard.
That can't possibly be right, Mr Speaker, because you called the ayes have it. Why would people on this side of the House who supported it call for a division on a vote when you had already declared that we'd won? That can't be right.
Well, can I just admit that the thing was challenged, and because it was challenged, I instructed a party vote to be called. So I now call the clerk to conduct a party vote.
Right. Point of order. I'm sorry.
Point of order, the Honourable Trevor Mallard.
Mr Speaker, I think you might be confusing a challenge with people voting different ways. There's got to be two things. First of all, people have the right to vote, ayes and noes, but there is only a division if your declaration is challenged. Because there is, as I've tried to indicate to the House, it's not, I can give you the case of the immigration legislation, I think of 1983, where there were a group of 7 or 8 Labor members who voted no on this is a Samoan legislation, of 1983, which ended up going to the Privy Council with Rosenberg, I think, took it to the Privy Council. But the point that I'm trying to make, sir, is it is always the right of the members to vote with their voices, but not to call a division. And they can only call for a division, they can only challenge your result when you have declared it. And Mr. Speaker, the point that I'm making to you is that you hadn't declared the result before Mr. McIndoe was calling for a party vote. He's got to wait for you to call for a party vote before he can challenge your ruling, because you can't challenge a ruling that hasn't been made, Mr. Speaker.
Well, can I just say to the member that my declaration was challenged, and so on that basis I instructed a party vote to be taken, and that's the reason why I asked the clerk to please conduct a party vote, and I'd appreciate it if the clerk would now do that. Thank you.
New Zealand National.
59 opposed.
New Zealand Labour.
33 votes in favour.
Green Party.
14 votes opposed.
New Zealand First.
7 votes in favour.
Māori Party.
3 opposed.
Mana.
1 vote in favour.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear that.
Would you repeat that, please?
1 vote in favour.
Thank you.
Act New Zealand.
1 opposed.
United Future.
1 opposed.
Brendan Horan.
1 vote in favour.
Honourable members, the ayes are 42, the noes are 78. The motion is not agreed to. I therefore call on members' order of the day number 4.
Privacy. Giving Privacy Commissioner necessary tools